All right, hopefully this is recording. I'm going to try to give you a quick review of what we're going to be doing. So the first thing I'm going to do in Adobe Illustrator is create a new document. You can see that the recent is a letter format. I can also go to print and you'll see that letter is there too. I can also have it landscape or portrait. I'm just going to choose landscape just for fun. And I'm going to click and show this. Okay, I'm going to let's go back here to the Essentials Classics, and I'm going to reset the Essentials Classic just so it looks how it looks when you open it up. And the first thing I like to do is expand these toolbars so that I can see this. All right, so we're going to be drawing. When we start to draw, they have the videos that you guys were watching had the lady was doing the pencil tool here. So I'm going to start off with the pencil tool here. And when you draw with the pencil tool, you can see that there's a little asterisk next to the pencil. That means it's going to be the start of one, and I can click and draw and go like that. And notice it adds a whole bunch of points. Just like anything, you can grab here and you can click on this point and you can readjust it and make it look the way you want it to go. Let me switch back and select that. I can make this a thicker line or a thinner line. I can change this so it's thin and then thick. And you can give it all kinds of brush strokes. I'm just going to go like this. Now, the advantage of doing the pencil tool is that this tool, as long as you start on the line, when you draw it, you see how you can readjust it? And so if I didn't like that little squiggle at the end, I could go, well, I want it to go this way instead, okay? And that's kind of cool until you try to add on to it. But if you're only going to have one line, you could say, well, gosh, I don't like how this, and I could just kind of go like this. And as long as it starts and ends on the same spot, you can. Now, I have, and you can't see this at home on your recording, but I have a tablet connected to my computer here. And I can go on here, and it does make it a lot easier to adjust when you have let's see, if I just go like this, see how I can straighten up things. And so if you don't like how it turned out, you can readjust them and say, well, I don't like how that waved. Okay, so that's kind of cool. The problem is when you try to do something and you want something split off and you're like, oh, wait, it's just redrawing it. And honestly, I'm not experienced enough. There's probably a way to add a new line, and I just don't know it. I'm guessing that you'd have to add and I wish I knew that. I'm sorry, I don't. Okay, so I'm going to switch to the paintbrush tool. And so when I go to the paintbrush tool, and remember I'm left-handed, so I'm going to draw this way. Once you've got the paintbrush tool, I think the paintbrush tool ends up being like a smoother line anyway. You can select it from here, and at this point you can readjust these. This is a 5-point round line. It will not be anything but 5-point round, or you can adjust the size, but it would be still round. If you choose the basic and then you adjust the size, you can get it. And see how it just ends up being a smoother line? I tend to grab the brush tool. I'm sure that the better at it you get at drawing things, you'll find, oh, I want to use a pencil tool for this, but I'd rather use a brush tool for this. And you can see the advantages between both. Okay, now, when I am talking about this brush tool, one of the things I want to point out is that you have points here right now. If you go to Edit, Preferences, and go to Units, right here is where you want to have points. Sometimes you can switch it to inches because you're like, oh, inches makes more sense. However, I'm going to try to encourage you to keep it at points, because what happens is when you adjust the size, like 12 points you can say, okay, that's 12 points wide right there. Okay, and you start learning that measurement. If you go to inches, then it might be 0.0000718 inches wide, and that would truly mean nothing to you at all. Not only can you go littler than, you can go smaller than 1 point. You can go 0.7, and you can get really, really small. So you can adjust that. Okay, so I'm going to rubber band select and press delete and get rid of it. Now we're going to start doing our brushes. Now, notice that if I start drawing something right now, you might have this be a white fill with it would probably be a 1-point stroke when you're first starting off. And so if I drew this ellipse, this just looks like it's just got a black oval, but the reality of it is it does have a fill on it. And so my suggestion to you is you make sure that you switch this and make it have no fill, because what we're going to do is we're going to be creating some brushes that create lines, and what you'll end up doing is having white being filled in on them, and it won't look as good. Plus there's something else that won't look good on it later. So, okay, I'm going to switch to the paintbrush tool. No, well, I'll switch to the pencil tool, and I will again choose a little bit wider, and I'm just going to go here. Let's see, I'm going to go and draw a little circle and another one, and I'm just going to draw a couple circles. Now, if you notice, I didn't join that one very well, so maybe I'll undo that one and I'll redo that. Now, there's nothing special about these. If I zoom in on it, you can see, boy, did I screw that one up, didn't I? So let's smooth this out a little bit. Remember, because it's the pencil tool, I can go like that and I can smooth it, and I can have this one go like that. Nope. Clicked on it by mistake. So there, I kind of joined it, and the smoother the action you use, the yeah. So I'm not as good with the pencil tool or with the pen as I am with the mouse. So I'm just going to go like that, and I'll just smooth that out, and I say good enough. Let's smooth this one out as well. Let's make sure it's selected. Grab the pencil tool, and I'll go like this and just smooth it out. It is not going to work. Okay, I can also grab the indirect selection tool and grab it like this, and I can readjust it anyway. Okay, let's pretend that this is exactly how I want it. And notice that I am zoomed in quite a bit. It's actually much smaller than this. I'm going to rubber band select them all, Control-0 to select it all. Okay, I'm going to make it not uniform. I'm going to make it a little bit wider. So now I got a little bit more funkier looking circles here. So if I click off of them, that's what they look like. I'm going to rubber band select them and select them all. So here's what we're going to do, and I will, when you're in class, I will give you this worksheet. If you are absent today, I will email you this, and those people that are here will get it. So what it says here is step 1, draw the object that you want. Notice there'll be a bunch of lines, not a shape. Step 2, select all by doing a rubber band select with the selection tool, and that's what I just did. And then step 3 says object expand appearance, and that's what I have highlighted, and then I have in the Pathfinder Unite. So let's do that. Okay, so I'm going to, I selected it all. Now I'm going to go to object, and then I'm going to come down to, what did I just say I was going to do? I'm going to go to object, and then expand appearance right here. Now, I want you to watch what's happening here. Let's even zoom in a little bit so you can really see what's going on. When I rubber band select all these, do you see how I have a line? I have just one path, and it's basically it's stroked on the outside of it, okay? Now, I'm going to, and let's make sure that that's selected with the correct selection tool. Now, I'm going to go to Object, Expand Appearance. Watch now what the paths look like. See how there's a path on the inside and the outside of that object? It is no longer an object that I can expand and change the shape of. It is now two lines that are forming to create that thing. And so then I'm going to go here to Window and Pathfinder to bring up the Pathfinder tool. That's this. This comes in really handy with Adobe Illustrator. And this one right here is unite. And when I click on this, now it just made this into one object. It becomes one thing, okay? All right, now I'm going to scoot that to the side a little bit. I'm going to come over here to my brushes panel. I'm going to click and pull that out, and I'm going to expand this. You can go and select all these and delete them later. The problem is if you clicked it right now, see how it just applied that stroke there? So I'm going to Control Z and undo. So I would have to get rid of those ones beforehand or after. But right now, as I have this, I'm going to grab with the selection tool, I'm going to click and drag it over to the brushes panel. See how it has that little plus symbol right there? I'm going to let go. When I do, I'm going to say I want to create a pattern brush, and I'm going to click OK. Now, there's a couple really important things you have to do here. Number one, you need to give it a name. Do you remember when we were doing that tutorial earlier where we did the stitches and every single brush stroke that the guy had made was named stitches? Wouldn't it have been nice if we had stitches 1, stitches 2, stitches 3? So we need to be good brush designers and name it. So I'm going to call it Open Circles, and I'm going to call it Open Circles 01. Now, why 01? Well, because if you start listing them alphabetically, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 would be all in order, but when you get to 10, it would actually alphabetically be 1, 10, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 11, it would go alphabetically, it would go 1, 10, 11, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So alphabetically, I always give a 0, 1 before everything so that I can go all the way up to 100 and it'll be in the correct order. Okay, so Open Circle 01 because I might have 99 of them, who knows. Scale. Right now I'm not going to change anything of that. We can later. Spacing. Spacing has to do with how close each of your designs going to go together. If I change this to like 50%, see how they're going to be much further apart? So most of the time you're going to want them at 0%, but there might be a time where you say, well, you know what, I kind of want it just a little bit of space, so maybe I want to have, like 1%. Okay, we'll see how this one looks in a second. I have a feeling this one might want it further apart. So I'm just going to keep it by the default. Another thing that you might adjust is the stretch to fit or add space to fit. If you click on it, you're not going to see a whole lot of difference here, but see right here in this corner, when I click add space to fit, see how it spaced them out a little bit? And I kind of like that a little bit. And you'll have to decide how you like it. I'm just going to put it by its default one. And then the other one you want to pay attention to is this one right here, and it's how the corners join. This is, the line starts here. It starts here, goes here, 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 here. And you see how this is an inside edge of the line? See how they're far apart? So it doesn't join very well? If you click, this is auto sliced. If I go to here to auto center, sometimes it makes them, see how it changed a little bit here? If I go to auto in between, see how it joined a little bit again? And I'm going to put it to its, I think it was at this one originally. I'm going to keep it as original one, and I'm just going to go ahead and click OK. Now, I now have a brush that looks like this. Now, to test it out, I'm going to go Control 0 so I have it spread out a little bit. First of all, I made this really big, and so I might decide that I should have probably started off with it much smaller. So we'll see with that in a minute. But what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to create a couple of different lines. First, I'm going to make a brush stroke, okay, and it is pretty big. Let's double click on that, and let's make that a little smaller just to start off. It'll say, you have already used this brush. Do you want to apply it? Yeah, I'm going to say apply it to all the strokes. So there it is, a little bit smaller. I'm also going to make an ellipse and apply that brush stroke. And I'm also going to make a rectangle and apply that brush stroke. Okay, so this is how this is going to look. Now, if I double click on this, I could decide, well, I want it much smaller than that and apply it. Okay, maybe I don't want it that small. Maybe I want it a little bit bigger. And the other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to change the spacing of it. Let's go to 10% and click OK and apply. And I kind of like it a little bit better spaced. Look how it's joining at the corners though. Can you see how it's almost sliced off? So let's fix that. Let's change how it joins to the corner. Let's have it go to auto-centered, and I'll click OK and apply, and see it meets a little bit better there, doesn't it? Not quite as good. So it works really well on an ellipse, it works really well on a line, but on the corners, not so much. Sometimes that has to do with how the object itself is joined. So if I grab this like this, and I'm going to hold down the Shift key and make this a little bit smaller, and then I'm also going to rotate it just a little bit. Okay, maybe a little less than that, maybe like that. Okay, now I'm going to drag that, I'm going to drag this in, make a new pattern brush. I'll call this Open Circles 02, and I'll click OK. And now I have this one. Now watch the difference. I'm going to rubber band select these, and I'm just going to click on this one instead. Do you see how they look now? This is what it looked like before. It actually looks better rotated, doesn't it? So you want to pay attention to how you're rotating it. And then I'm also going to double click, and let's see if I can't get that join to, let's see what auto in between does. Let's see if that makes it a little bit better. That does. That looks a little bit better, doesn't it? And maybe I might need to space it out a little bit. But playing with all of that is a good thing. The other thing that you should do, you should realize, is that you can also change the colorization to tints. And I didn't do that with the other class. And then I'll click apply, which doesn't do anything until I click on this and I click on the stroke and I change it. And now I can make my path, my circles can become different colors too, because I changed the tints. Okay, so that is what I want you to do today. Today you're going to be practicing doing this. And then you're going to, tomorrow, I'm going to give you some more stipulations, like you'll have to create a brush set. And by the way, please note that on this brush set, you can click and drag and reorder these. So if you decide you want this one to be up, in front, I guess I can't move those ones because those ones are not made already. If I click off of that and I click and I press delete, I can get rid of that brush. That way I can make my own brush set. Today we're not going to be exporting the brush set. We're going to be just saving this as an Adobe Illustrator document. Okay? All right, I'm going to stop.